All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for taking a few minutes with us this morning to attend this call. So if you were on this call, then you have been recognized, of course, as a public human resources agent and will likely be submitting on or behalf of your respective public school system or charter school system and or educators within that public school system. My name is Rachel Norman. I serve as the director of the certification office. And with me today, I have Lana Hutchinson, who serves as our deputy director and who has been overseeing this LEC, the Louisiana Educator Certification Portal, this LEC project for a little over a year and a half. We are very excited about what this portal will bring to the certification process. We do know that many of y'all were part of both our alpha and our beta testing. And so, you already kind of got a preview, a sneak peek into what that process looks like. One caveat that we do want to say is that, of course, right now with LEC having been launched on Monday, so we're, going on day 3 of that implementation. Our other certification online portal, Teach LA Live, is still up and active. And so right now you do have the ability to submit applications in either one of the portals, but we just want to publicly remind everybody that in 2 Mondays, so August 11th, that is the last official day that any fully completed application can be submitted to Teach LA Live. If a fully completed application is not submitted on or before that date, then it will be returned unprocessed, and that you and that individual educator will be required to go through LEC. And with that, of course, we will go ahead and drop all of the relevant information in the chat at the beginning and probably periodically throughout if we do have anybody that will be joining us late. And again, we would just ask that you do save questions and comments till the end after the demonstration. With that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Hutchinson.
Thank you, Rachel. Welcome, everybody. We are here to discuss the Louisiana Educator Portal. We're excited to share how it's working, how you will interact with it as HR personnel. As Rachel mentioned, we did launch on Monday, the 28th, and the new certification features are integrated into the Louisiana Educator Portal. As public partners, you may have been using the Louisiana Educator Portal for a year or more at this time, as it has been live for the evaluation information. And so we've integrated the certification pieces right there into the Louisiana Educator Portal. And over time, the larger project plan is to integrate other features, eventually like the information from Teach Louisiana and other things. So there's essentially kind of a one-stop shop for our educators and all things certification, evaluation, and related there. As Rachel mentioned, if you are, as a partner, you're planning for this transition period, during this period, we will have about 2 weeks from the launch date of the 28th to continue accepting PDF applications. For a lot of technical reasons, we're not able to have an extended overlap period, but we will allow a couple of weeks to get everybody launched and online and get permissions requested and that sort of thing with the Louisiana Educator Portal. So we do again encourage you to submit all PDF applications that may be sitting on your desk or in process with your educators quickly, and have those all uploaded by August 11th. On August 12th, you will no longer be able to submit applications through Teach LA Live. And any applications that need to be submitted beginning August 12th will need to go through the Louisiana Educator Portal and the certification applications and features available there. We will not have an alternate method of submitting the PDFs after August 11th. So again, we encourage you to get those uploaded, and as long as they're complete, they will be processed in the order received. Any applications during that transition time that have to be returned, either because the applicant doesn't have a background check or there's some other error on the document or critical requirement missing that is returned after that time, the resubmission will also need to be done through the LEC application. So they won't be able to resubmit the PDF. They'll need to start the application in the Louisiana Educator Portal. One other thing that you can do to prepare for starting to receive messages and responses to applications through the new Louisiana Educator Portal is to make sure that either any personal mail settings or your school system-wide mail settings are allowing the email address that you see there on your screen to come through and put them on the whitelist, or different programs have different terms for it, but that be an allowed email address. All responses from our office, both the response to the application as well as the notification messages and things like that, that are sent from the application system will come from that address. And so to make sure that those messages are received, we encourage you to whitelist or allow that email address. I have dropped the slides into the chat so that you can have access to that email address, as well as the few other pieces of information that are in this slide deck. There aren't a whole lot of slides because the majority of this training session will be live demonstration of how you will interact with the system. So the first thing that we will discuss is the access requirements. First, you got to get in before you can do anything with the system. Because it's integrated into the Louisiana Educator Portal, your educators that are already using that for the evaluations, they shouldn't need to do anything else. They'll just, the next time they log into the Louisiana Educator Portal, the certification features will be there for them. They'll have the option to start applications and get things rolling. If you have educators that are not already using the Louisiana Educator Portal, for new hires, new folks coming in from out of state, those kinds of educators, they will just need to create a MILA account, and then they should have access to all the certification features after their MILA account has been created and verified. For school system personnel, if you are already using the Louisiana Educator Portal, the only thing you will need to do is request permissions. And we will provide a permission request. Rachel has dropped that into the chat. It's the instructions for requesting HR permissions as public school personnel. And those permissions will be made. And if you've been using the Louisiana Educator Portal and other state systems, you've made these permission requests before. And you'll make those requests and they're approved by your local data administrator. Once the permissions are approved, if you're currently logged in, when it is approved, you just log out and log back in, and you'll have access to the public HR features. If you have never used the Louisiana Educator Portal or other state systems that work through MILA accounts for and DeadLink security for authentication, then you may potentially need an eScholar staff ID, a MILA account, and then to request the permissions for applications. But again, if you already have MILA for other systems, or if you already have an eScholar staff ID, then you should just need to make the permission request. One flag that we're learning after going live is apparently eScholar rolled over Monday night into Tuesday morning from the 24-25 school year to the 25-26 school year. So if your local data administrators have not yet uploaded the 25-26 records, you may have some trouble with the permission requests, even if you previously had access to make those kinds of permission requests in Louisiana Educator Portal. So we would encourage you, if you go to make the permission request and don't have any options to choose, that you check with your local data administrator to see if the eScholar information for 25-26 has been uploaded. Our understanding is most school systems would be working on that this week, so it shouldn't cause a significant delay. If you do need to request a staff ID, the staff IDs are requested through the EdLink Ops portal. And there's a link provided in those slides that I shared. You just access the Ops portal. It'll ask you to select your account type, and you indicate you're a PK-12 public school employee. They ask for a little bit more information, name and address, and then you save and submit that, and the eScholar staff ID should be created for you. The process is usually very, very quick with the rollover from last school year to the new school year, as well as the kind of increase in volume due to the launch of this system. There may be a slight delay. It's not instantaneous. In any case, we have already had a few questions from people who requested the staff ID and then immediately wanted to make permission requests. And it does take a little time for that staff ID to be assigned if you don't already have one. So we recommend giving it a day or two before you try to request the permissions if you do need to request a staff ID. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing the slides and switch to a live share of the actual educator certification features in the Louisiana Educator Portal. So you should now see on my screen a Louisiana Educator profile. And again, when your educators log in, if they've logged in previously, they should then notice the difference right away of Start New Certification Application, available both in the upper right-hand corner and on the left menu bar in the Louisiana Educator Portal. And we're going to begin this demonstration by kind of showing you how an application will get to you as HR. In the Louisiana Educator Portal, every request needs to be started by the educator. They are not able to, that's how the system will know who the application is for. It's going to pull in information from their Verify account. So as the HR representative, you're not able to just start the application for them and start filling in information on their behalf. You will be able to send them the application and say, hey, you need to start this application at this time. And I'll demonstrate that a little later in this training session. But first, I'll show you the educator features, and Rachel has dropped into the chat the applicant guide. The applicant guide and all the specific authorized user guides are also linked on teachlouisiana.net, as well as on the Louisiana Educator Portal's homepage before you log in. So if you're unable to retrieve those from the chat, they are easily downloadable from several other publicly available locations. So when an educator goes to start a new application, they'll click Start New Certification Application. Oh, sorry, apparently it logged me out as the other person. Through the magic of technology, I am in the wrong. Let me go to it. There it goes. Start New Certification Application. It logged me out. Sorry. When you log in, as you may have noticed, if you've used the Louisiana Educator Portal before, it requires a verification code. The first time you log in, looks like that one just logged me out and I needed to drop my code in on a separate window real quick. So now I've hit Start New Certification Application, and this particular educator only sees one application packet. One of the features that will, we hope, lift some of the load from our HR personnel and make things a little more streamlined for our applicants is automatic CBC and clear credential checking. If the applicant tries to start an application and they don't have a CBC on file with our office or that clear credential issued, they will not have access to any of the applications that are available to start. The only thing that they'll have available is this fingerprint clearance required before proceeding application. And they will click that little blue check mark or blue or plus sign, and it'll provide the instructions for completing the background check. So your office will no longer need to check on their behalf or submit the application. Then we have to return it. Then you have to submit it again after verifying they issued a clear credential. The system will do all that checking for us and provide them the instructions to do the background check if they don't already have it. The link right here in the middle will let them download that PDF that we've been sharing since the 1st of January so they can have access to that offline when they are registering with it Identigo, to have the code available and on hand while they're taking care of those steps. We are asking the educators to download that packet, fill in their personal information, provide their social security card and ID, answer the questions that are on our standard professional conduct form, and then complete and submit that application to our office prior to going to get the fingerprinting done. What we're finding since we've implemented the background checks over the past 7-8 months is when we receive the background checks, particularly for people who are not yet in the certification database. So it's their first certificate. They're applying for a TAT or something that is kind of their starting certificate, and then we don't have any information on them yet. The background checks, when we receive them, often have several variations of the name and frequently several variations of the social security number, maybe with just a couple numbers transposed. And it's very difficult if we don't already have information on this individual for our office to determine which is the correct name, which is the correct social. And so we've been doing our best to try to figure it out. But I'm sure many of you have already experienced where someone goes and gets their fingerprinting, and then you can find the clear credential by name, but it's not tied to the correct social. So when you submit an application, we return it again. And there have been some kind of hiccups around matching those background checks to the right person. So by adding this option where there's no fee for it, they'll just submit this information to our office. That'll allow us to go ahead and add them to the teacher certification database and verify their name and their social from the social security card they provide here. That way, when we receive the background check, we can actually issue the clear credential under the correct social and the correct spelling of their name as it appears on the social security card. So we think that will also help to smooth out that background check process a little bit more. And then that way, when we receive the new application, everything is tied to the right information from the start. So now I'm going to log out as this educator who does not have a background check and use the magic of technology to be someone else who does. Oops. Now, if a background check is on file with our office, when the applicant clicks Start New Certification Application, they receive a big long list of all the applications that are available for the educator to start. Now, when we started creating these applications, our goal was not necessarily to one-to-one just mimic what we already have. Our goal was to try to make it a little easier for people to figure out which application they need to use and to kind of streamline the process where we are more directly asking on the application itself for the exact documents we would need for that particular request. And to do that, we split some of the applications that maybe had a whole bunch of requests into smaller packets with fewer requests made on each application packet. That does mean there's more application packets now than there were in the PDF format. So I've just dropped into the chat, and these are also linked on teachlouisiana.net, 2 different application references to help you with getting accustomed to what is the new LEC application to use for requests that maybe you already know which PDF one to use, but now things are a little different. One of the lists just lists all the LEC applications alphabetically, gives a brief description of what's requested using that application, and then in the far right column indicates what the previous PDF was. The other one's kind of the reverse of that. It lists all our previous PDF applications with the brief description of a particular type of request that could be made on that application, and then lists the LEC application that would be used to make that request now. So whichever way makes better sense to you for figuring out if I used to request this with ancillary teaching, which is the correct application to use now, or the other way, what do I use this particular application for? Then both of those references are available to kind of guide you to identify the correct application when helping your educators. But you'll see, for instance, if you look at the ancillaries, instead of just having 2, ancillary teaching and ancillary service, that's one good example where we've broken them down to smaller groups of similar areas or areas that have kind of similar supporting document requirements to make it a little easier. Now, because this is a web page, we have tried to put some very kind of specific to that request instructions or summary of what is included on that application. And any web browser search feature can be used to try to locate the correct application as well. So if I'm looking at this list of It's close to 40 applications, I think, and I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, but I want to know how to renew my level one. I can just type level one into my search feature in my web browser, and that'll help me find all the applications that mention level one. So I can say, no, I don't want content leader. I don't want mentor teacher, not that one, but oh, there it is, renew a level one. So we also hope that those search features will be a little bit more user-friendly for educators that are not sure which application to start. So because the renewal hire is our most common application packet, I'm going to use that one to demonstrate the applicant side of completing an application. Start that application again by clicking the plus. For all user types, a lot of the forms within our applications have help information that displays to the right. And so the left column is their navigation bar. In the middle is the actual fields that need to be completed. And to the right is some additional information specific to that form. We encourage all educators and really all users to read through that information if you're ever unsure what the question is asking, how to answer a certain question, what this certificate is, what the requirements are, renewal requirements. It is a lot of information because certification is complex, but we wanted to share as much as we are able to help people learn a little bit more about the certification process. The personal information is the first section of every application. And the fields that are gray, those are fields that are being pulled in from their EdLink security profile, their MILA profile. That's information that has been verified previously. If they're set up in your school systems and eScholar and so forth, it also uses that information when setting up their profiles. So their social security number should always be accurate. It's a verified social security number. That should help cut down on applications being returned because somebody made a typo when they entered their social. Their email address should be a valid email address that was entered and then verified when their account was created. And then the name will be the way that it's currently listed in their profile. The address and the date of birth are editable fields. Those aren't grayed out. When they enter this the first time, the system will save it. It doesn't really save it to their profile, but it kind of saves it for reference in their history. And so then if the next time they start an application, it'll pre-fill this information. Those fields remain editable though, so they can edit that as they need if they've changed their address since their last application. The name though, because that comes from the profile, even if they can still request a name change and we would still change it to match the social security card. But if they want to change the name that's displaying here, that's part of their profile. And they would need to update that in their MILA accounts. It would need to be updated in eScholar on your side. That needs to be happening in their back-end profile. That's not something they can change on the application itself. So they do have the option on paid applications, just like on our PDFs, to request a name change for no additional charge. The applicants will be providing their social security card and their driver's license. So you will no longer need to be collecting those or making sure they're included. When navigating any application, when you have completed all of the required fields on the form that you're currently reviewing, then this complete button goes from kind of shaded, hidden to be active and blue there. And you need to click the complete button when you have finished a page to kind of tell the system you're done with it. Let's save that information, ready to go. The system does soft save. So if you fill out a form, but you haven't filled in everything that's required and you move off of that and come back to it later, that information you had entered will still be there. But the complete button is kind of your final, the applicant's or yours when you're doing HR forms, kind of the final, all right, that form's done. There are next and back buttons to be able to navigate to additional forms. I could change something here if I wanted to say, yes, I want that. And then I just would click complete again to save that answer. Professional conduct form. We do have several dynamic questions throughout the applications where, depending on how you answer, you may get a follow-up question. Like with the professional conduct form, if you're familiar with it, on the PDFs for question 1 and question 3, there's a second, if yes, add additional information. And so now that additional information is only requested if they actually answered yes. So those questions don't show unless they answer in the affirmative, and then we would ask for the additional information needed. Complete that form. And then we come to the actual application request after the personal information and professional conduct form. And again, this help information is, we hope, going to be a really good tool to help people understand what type of request to make and how to make it. One of the really cool features that we have been able to add that we would have never been able to do with a PDF file is we are pulling certificate information into a lot of the applications from the teacher certification database. So when the applicant is looking at the application, if they are trying to renew their level 1, they should be able to verify right here that they have a level 1. Similarly, when you're reviewing it as their HR personnel, you will see the same information when you review their section. So you can say, hey, you have a level 3. It'll be right there on the application. You won't have to look anything up separately. You have to say you have a level 3. There is no higher certificate. You requested a higher certificate. That's going to be denied. And you can kind of help guide them by looking over their information right there. For the purposes of this demonstration, we'll pretend this person does hold a level 1, even though she doesn't. And then they'll select the request they want to make. So we do have renew, we have hire, and we have the option to choose hire or renewal. If that is your preference on most of your applications, then that option is still allowed by checking that option from the drop-down list. Similar to the certificates held, we're also pulling in from the certification database the degrees that are already displayed on their certificate. So under educational qualifications, if they have any records, it will show that. Otherwise, it says educational qualifications, no degrees found. So if we already have the degree on the certificate, we don't need the transcript again. So if this person's applying for a level 3 and there were a master's degree already displayed here, then there's no need to attach the transcript again. We already have it. So that's another way that we tried to simplify the process, is by asking questions. Is a graduate degree already provided there? If so, then you do not need to provide transcripts. If you wish to provide transcripts, you say yes, and then it'll provide an upload box for transcripts. If you say no, you do not wish to provide transcripts, then the upload box does not appear. If they're not advancing from an OS, they say no, not doing that, and then they'll sign. Then at the end of each section for each user type, there is a section review. And the section review is the digital signature. When the confirmation here, the complete, is selected on the section review, that button will only be available if all of the other forms in that same section are complete. And when they click that complete button, that will insert their digital signature. And then it's going to prompt them to select their employing school system. The employing school system will default to where they're currently reported in the state employment systems. So if it's one of your active educators, it should default to your HR office if your employment data is up to date, and then they will just not really have to select anything. But they do have the option of selecting any school systems, non-publics. We know people move around, and depending on when rollovers and when data is updated, sometimes somebody newly hired, especially at the beginning of the school year, that was previously in another district, they may still default to their previous district, but they will still have the option to choose your district to send the application to you. And then they would click OK. And now the applicant section is done. If I go back to review, the section review, you can see that digital signature there. And you can see that on the HR section, it's now added the name of the school system where this application has been routed. So at any time, the applicant can go back and make sure they send it to the right person. We actually, in the certification office, will be able to see where it was routed. Should there be questions about, my HR office or my educator said they sent us an application, but I can't find it, we would be able to go look at it and say, well, that's because they sent it to West Baton Rouge and not East Baton Rouge. So now I'm going to switch and pretend to be the HR for East Baton Rouge. So once you have been granted permissions, major permission request, and those permissions have been approved, as public HR personnel, you will have on your toolbar, menu bar at the top, you will have public certification. And that's how you'll know when your permissions have been approved. And when you select public certification, it's going to take you to your active applications. And this is all of the applications that have been sent to this HR office for review and approval that have not yet been assigned to a specialist for processing. And so you can look through the list. I've been using this in our test environment. I've been using this quite a bit. So that's starting to build up, as yours will over time. Now you can tell there's a couple statuses that are displayed right here. So application submitted, that'd be an application that the applicant has filled out their part, the HR office has filled out their part, the applicant has paid, it's been submitted to our office, and it's just waiting in the unassigned queue. And so you can also click on the little blue arrow next to a submitted application, and it'll provide a message to you to let you know that it is currently in the queue for our office. Anything that has been started still needs somebody to do something, but it may or may not be you. So you can click on any individual application to see where it is in the process. So in this case, all of these with the locks, those are the ones that have been completed in the applicant section. And I can tell here, somebody has completed the in-state experience, but they haven't signed it as the HR, because wherever you see these empty boxes, that means something hasn't been done on that page. That page has not been completed. So this would be one that still needs interaction from the HR office. So this is the one I just started. And if I wanted to review that application, I will click on that and it will take me into the application itself. As the HR personnel, you are able to review everything that the applicant entered. Whatever they attached, you're able to click on those attachments and see them. So you should have far fewer problems with applications being incomplete, because the system does have required fields indicated throughout and will not let them sign it and submit it to you if they haven't answered all the questions on the professional conduct form. Their social security number cannot be wrong. They have to have attached something where the IDs are required, but the system is not smart enough to know that what they uploaded where it asks for the social is actually a social security card. So there you may still see times where people picked the wrong file. I saw one in progress yesterday where they'd attached the social security card twice instead of giving us the social and a photo ID. So you will still potentially have times where you need to ask the educator to make corrections, but hopefully it'll be a lot less because the system's controlling for as much as we can technologically at this time. So you can review the requests that they've made. If you see anything they do need to fix, if they did attach their social security twice instead of attaching their ID, then I'm sure many of you have your own ways of communicating with your educators that you are certainly free to keep using, but you also have the option of going to their personal information. And this email address that they've entered there on the application is their verified valid email address. So you can just copy paste, just send them a message and say, hey, I'm looking over your application, but on the personal information, you attached your social security card twice instead of attaching an ID. I need you to go fix that. Then the applicant can return to the application, unlock their section, make a change, and then confirm their section review again, and it will send it back to you for review. So once you've reviewed all the applicant section, verified everything's complete, they've done what they need to do. In the HR section, you'll have the forms that you need to complete as the employing school system. In most applications, the most common thing that HR needs to complete is the experience verification. Now, when we first started giving previews to the LEC system, we talked a lot about, in a lot of places, took some surveys, trying to get some feedback from our partners in HR on whether they wanted this form to be editable by the educator or if they want this form to be locked down so only HR can complete it. And we didn't really get a really definitive answer. We had really strong feelings on both sides of that question. So we have made it editable to the educator. They cannot complete it and sign it. They can only add information to it. And we have allowed you to make your own local policies around that. So if you prefer for educators to hands off, don't touch it, then you can communicate that to your educators. If you would like, you can tell them, I won't sign it if you have put anything on there, or anything you put on there, I'm going to remove and only put on there what I can verify. You can tell your educators, I won't sign it if you haven't already entered the information for me to review. And you are also free to just take them as they come. And if they put something on there, great, you review it and decide if it's accurate. If they haven't put anything on there, you fill it out. So we are leaving that open to you, and you're free to set your own local policies and then communicate those to your educators. Now, one of the tools that has been added is this click here to import records from the LDOE databases. So most school systems have been reporting employment for a long, long time into state systems. And we've tapped into those systems and can pull that information out to kind of get you started with the experience verification. But I really encourage you to use this with a kind of bit of caution. Some school systems have been really good about it. Some school systems have been less good about making sure that information is clean and accurate. And so sometimes when you import records, they're awesome and it's a great start, and there's only a couple more things you need to add. Sometimes it imports 25 records that are all duplicative and not accurate, and then there's a lot of cleanup that has to happen in order to have a good verification of experience. So again, use it with caution, but sometimes it is nice. You hit click here to import records, and you can see it pulled all this information out of the data system. This is an example where it's not great. This first record's great, 2022 to 2025. But then we have 22, 24, 22, 24, 22, 24, 22, 23. So we have all these duplicative records that kind of need to be removed before this is a clean, before this is a clean verification of experience. I'm going to drop real quick in the chat the public HR guide. I don't see it, but in case, because this information is also there. So in case that wasn't there, I'll drop that guide as well again. So to edit this information, I've imported it, or if the educator has entered information that you need to edit, you slide your little scroll bar right there at the bottom of the experience section to the right. And then the X will remove all these kind of duplicate records. Just say, yes, I want to delete that one and that one. I won't delete, in the interest of time, all of the duplicates, but you would just do that. This first one that's good and has all the years encompassing in a start and end, I can hit the little pencil, and then I can just add the other information. That's a public school. They served as a teacher teaching math in grade 6, evaluated in Compass and Leads. And then that would give a complete record. You also have the option to just say add new record and just put it in from scratch, if that is easier for each person. And if the educator has entered anything here, you will still have these X's and pencils so that you can remove, edit whatever they put in. You, as the employing authority, are the absolute authority to decide what is verified on this form before you sign it. So you are free to change things the educator entered and do whatever you need to do there. Then on this particular form, we do just ask for additional confirmation that they are still currently employed by your school system. There are 2 optional boxes for uploading out-of-state experience verification attestations and local evaluation attestations as needed. So if you wish to provide them, you just say yes, and it'll give you an upload box to provide them there. Otherwise, say no to each question. Complete that form, and then it will take you to the HR verification. This is going to enter your digital signature. So you would hit complete, and that application is now done from an HR perspective. At this point, the educator does need to return to the application, pay their processing fee, and submit the application. They will be notified once you have signed it, or if it's something that involves a prep provider as well, when all parties have signed. And then they're sent an email every single day to remind them to check out that application. There are some drawbacks to having them have to come back to the application and make that payment. But we are really excited for the benefits on the other side of that, in that they will not be able to pay more than is required or less than required. Nobody has to save receipts when they make their payment through the application system. It'll just attach the receipt with it. And so we think overall the process will be a little easier, but you will potentially have that occasional person who you've done, like, everything's all the way through, and then they're not going to pay for it as quickly as you would like. Now, when I look at my active applications, I kind of demonstrated how some of these, the HR, like here's that one I just filled out, the HR section. Now everything is complete except checkout. Some of them, the HR is partially done. Some have already been submitted. So one option you have up at the top is action required. Now, if you change action required, right now by default, it's not set. So it's showing me everything that's still active that includes my HR office for some sort of verification. If I change that action required to true, now it's only going to show me applications that I still need to do, or the HR office still needs to do something with. So now all of these will have incomplete HR sections. And so you can pull a list of just those that you need to fill in by setting your action to true. You can also set your action to false if you want to see all the ones where you have done your part, but they're waiting for somebody else. And then again, you can click on them. That one's just waiting for our office to process it. That one's waiting to check out. That one's waiting to check out. That one's waiting to check out. So you'll be able to kind of follow the status of an application and what's going on with it when your teacher reaches out and it's like, you haven't signed my application. Then you could go and look and say, we have signed it. You haven't checked it out. And so everyone should be able to see this process all the way through. If I switch back to the educator can see too what's going on. So we hope it reduces all the questions for our office, for your office, for the educator, and that everyone finds it to be far more transparent. So with on the educator profile, there's online applications for certification, which will take them to the list of the applications that they've ever started. Right here is that application that we just completed. It'll tell them who the last person to update it with is. So they'll see the representative from your HR office that signed it as the last person to have done something. And they can go continue. And they can review every individual form and see what's left. And then if they go to checkout, that also shows a summary. And if everything has been completed, then here's where they can check out. So once an application has been fully completed, signed by everyone involved, and the payment's been made and it's been submitted to our office, when it gets assigned to a specialist, it will move from active applications on your screen as an HR representative to submitted applications. And in submitted applications, this will be your history of everything that you have submitted over time that has reached our office and been processed by a specialist. And you'll see the different statuses here: case processed, case opened. It'll kind of tell you just at a glance what has been done. This list will, of course, get long over time. You do have the ability here to use these little filters to search for a particular educator. So if I want to see the applications for Brandy, oh, none of hers have been submitted. So Taylor Johns does have some. And then I can just search right there, find particular person and look at their applications. You can also filter by date. So when we've had LEC up and running for 5 years, you could say, I just want to look at submitted applications for the past month and put in the start date and end date of what you want to look at. On any of these applications, when you click on the blue arrow next to the application, you'll see the information that was posted to Teach Louisiana. And if you click again, you'll see the actual full complete application all the way through, including the confirmation of payment and any messaging. The messaging will be the emails that we send in response to the application. And those will save here as part of the submitted application in your list. It will also, the applicant can also see this if it were a practitioner license, the practitioner program provider will be able to see it. So anybody that was involved in the application will have access to the messaging to go back in and see what the response was. If there are any attachments, when you click there where it says show hide attachments, it would show the attachment there. And you also from here have the application review option. Now there is an application review button even from the minute the application is started. And at any time you can click application review and that will give you a preview of the application kind of in its completed form. This, after it's been processed by our office, of course, is like the only time when it has everything in it. But you can review that. It'll include all the attachments, all the information that was provided. And there is an export to PDF at the top. If you prefer to have applications stored digitally in your own file format outside of this history that will be available, you can export them at any time. And that will export the full completed application with all signatures and all supporting documents that were attached as one single PDF file that you can then save however you like to outside of the system. And the last feature I want to show you before we open it up for Q&A is the certification expirations. The certification expirations is, again, pulling from the employment systems to identify who is employed at each school. As a district level HR representative, you'll be able to see this information and where there are certificates within that school that are expiring soon. There are little warnings there. And you can choose one and to see the full list. Now, at least right now, these little flags don't carry over to then flag next to the specific certificate, but it does give you a list that you can kind of scroll through or search through. For instance, I might use my find feature again and type in 2025. And then that'll take me to, since it's already August, that'll take me to any certificate with a validity date that ends in 2025. Probably take me to some of those. The ones that are not valid are not always not valid. So like in this case, the level 3 has replaced the level 2. So we have not flagged all the ones that just say not valid. But if it has a validity date, then it will show you that a flag that one may be expiring soon for you to then look at and determine if it needs to be renewed or if they need to move to a different certificate or what needs to happen based on what type of certificate it is. You can also use the certification expirations as an option to send an application. So let's say that would be a TAT. Let's say that this educator needs to renew that TAT. And so I can click this little arrow and hit send start application request. And that will let you as the HR representative send them a message that says, hey, here's the application, you need to start it. Now, if you click there and the only thing that's in the list is fingerprint clearance required for proceeding, then they need to get their CBC done before they can do anything. and you can send this to them. So it will be another way that you can kind of prompt them to go ahead and do it, communicate the background check option. If they do have the background check, all the applications will be in the list. You'll find the one that you need to send to them and send it over. They should get an email that they have a requested action, and then they'll be able to go to their requested actions and start the application straight from there. And so those are the features I wanted to review. We do have a few minutes for Q&A. I'm going to take a look at the chat and see if there are any questions in there that we didn't cover after they were posted. There is a question about that the HR offices with several people. Yeah, so multiple people can be given access to be the HR representatives for the district, and everybody in the district will see all of the applications here. So like I'm currently pretending to be EBR. There could be 5 people with access to this list. And then you can determine internally how you split them up. You have options, for instance, when doing review, to sort by site code or to filter by site code. If you say certain people only do certain schools, or if you divide them up by the type of application, then the application name is listed right there. So you can decide internally how you tend to split up the work. If everybody just kind of does them as they can, they're all there and everybody has access to them, everyone that's granted those permissions. Now, because when they click complete, they are digitally signing the application. Anybody that requests and is granted those permissions needs to be on the authorized signature form. That when you complete that form, that's your digital signature, and the person that's signing those forms needs to be authorized to sign applications with our office. But if you have folks who work on those that you want to update your authorized signatures, just send us a request through the Teacher Certification Help Center, and we can provide that form and give you information on how to update it. So there is a question about the experience verification and the import of the information. Yes, when the information imports, it only imports the years, the school system. It does not import job title, method evaluation, partly because the employment reporting systems don't have that information. And it's also those categories are often much bigger than what we need. We'll see a lot of people reported as just teacher, but maybe they're an instructional coach, maybe they're a master teacher, maybe we need more specifics for certification purposes than what is available in the employment reporting systems. So yes, when you import information, there is additional information that needs to be completed, but it does give you a good start. And so yes, the employee or the employer needs to fill it in, and for it to be a valid and usable experience verification before you sign as HR, that information should be complete. So there's a question about training for teachers. We are not currently planning a training for teachers. We have the applicant guides available. We feel like it's pretty user-friendly for them to fill out those applications. And we also don't really have a good way to communicate with the teachers all over the state. All of our communications tend to filter through the HR office. If we find we're having a lot of questions and a lot of educators that just are struggling to navigate, then we could at a future time consider potentially doing a shorter educator version that just shows them how to complete an application, but it's not currently on the schedule. Let's see. So there is a question about how do we give information to teachers to renew. So that last thing I demonstrated to send the application request, that would be my recommendation. But you are also, none of those applications are not locked down anymore. So you are also free to just send them an email with the applicant guide attached and say, go find the renewal hire, or go find the ancillary teaching renewal, or go find whichever application is specific to their certificate, and just send them an email. Like, your communications and how you choose to do that can largely be a local decision. So there's a question about mentors signing off on the application. Currently, we are not having the mentor verification because they're not authenticated users and would not be somebody we would want. It might be kind of anybody, and when we would not want to have to authenticate that many users. The mentor attestation is remaining as a separate PDF document that will be uploaded to the application. So same form, it's available independently on teachlouisiana.net. So the mentors will still verify mentoring using the same form they've been using. And then the HR office will upload that form. After HR office signs the PDF form, you'd upload that one completed form to any application that requires verification of mentoring. So there's a question about Teach Louisiana. Yes, Teach Louisiana is still available for the add-on checklists. The add-on checklists are staying right where they are. And in fact, the page with the add-on checklist is linked in many of the applications where those checklists are required. There is actually also, when the educators, there's even a link on their left navigation bar to the information about add-ons. Yeah, notifications. There is a question about, should we be checking daily to see if we have apps? The system is going to notify you every day. There will be a daily digest that goes out to HR representatives, people with those permissions, if you have anything waiting. So it'll say, you have the following applications waiting for HR action, and it'll list them. But if you won't get the email if you don't have any. But if you have 2 or 3 or 5 or 1,000, you'll get notification every day you have something waiting. So there's then a question, when an educator contacts us to do anything other than renew, should we just direct them to which site? So, I mean, there are other applications other than renewal that require HR verification, but you would just direct them to the Louisiana Educator Portal to start any application that needs to be started. And then those that require HR verification, that's built into the application to route it to you when once they've completed their part. Let's see. How can we print their certification once approved? The certificates are still on teachlouisiana.net. And can be verified there. Also on the Louisiana Educator homepage, verify a certificate and teaching authorization is listed there as well. So just kind of from one place, you can get to their certificate to print it out. Okay. And then I don't see anything else in the chat. We are right at 10 o'clock. If anybody else has, I can give you another minute or two. I think Rachel has to hop to the preparation call, but if there are other questions, feel free to come off mute, and we're happy to answer whatever we can.
All right. Thank you, Lana.
Let's see. Will HR personnel still receive an email once the certificate is granted? Yes. Everybody on the application will receive those messages that appear in messaging as well, saved to the application. So not only will HR personnel receive the email, the educator will receive it. And if it's something that involves the preparation provider, the provider will receive it as well. Kim, can you clarify that question? I don't know what you mean by how do we know if they are all signed into the MILA?
Like if they are needing to have something done, how do we know they are already signed in to what they need to have to get this information?
So I don't know that you would need to, like, they don't necessarily need to have been signed into MILA first for you to send them an application or any, like whenever they go to try to request to get into the Louisiana Educator Portal, they will be required to create a MILA. If they come to the Louisiana Educator Portal and and hit where the name shows right now, because I'm already logged in, when they hit sign in, if they don't have one, it'll make them create one.
So it'll prompt them to have it set
Yes.
up after we send the email to them.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Well, I thank you all for joining us today. I hope that you're excited to use it. We're hearing from most of our testers that the first few times it was a little kind of just, what are we doing here? I don't know what I'm looking at. But that very quickly they started to recognize all the benefits and how much smoother the process will run once everyone embraces it and starts using the system, routing the applications, and that there are just so many efficiencies built in to make everything hopefully just a little bit easier for our wonderful partners. We know you and HR do so many other things other than certification, so we hope we can make this part just a little bit easier for you. Thank you again for joining us today. Have a wonderful rest of your day.